Welcome, besties, and thank you for being here. Today, we're exploring a simple and powerful question, and that is, how does volunteering change the way our brains feel about the world? We know that sometimes things feel fast, often overwhelming in this world that we live in. Service can help us reconnect with meaning, reconnect with ourselves, and reconnect with others. This conversation is an invitation to reflect and unpack the pieces of volunteering. Thank you for being here, and we're excited to have this conversation. Hello, everyone. I am so honored to be joined by our first ever virtual guest. Her name is Alyssa Cline-Spencer, and she is project director and clinical coordinator here at Centerstone. So excited to explore this conversation together, where we get to talk about kind of a topic that's, maybe it's a common topic, but it's volunteerism. Being able to kind of piece that out a little bit. Hopefully talking about ways that people kind of normally think of volunteerism, but also being able to kind of explore all of the different ways that it might even give back to us, both to our hearts and to our brain health. Welcome, Alyssa. We are so glad you're here.
Hi, thanks. It's so great to be here today.
Well, Alyssa, one of the things we like to do is what we call a self-assessment. That's something that Be Well always does. We take it with us even, because it's just a time to check in with ourselves, because sometimes things can get a little bit hectic. But we want to use a scale, and it goes from 0 to 5. 0 is all the way what we call calm and cool and maybe even collected. But all the way up to a number 5, where sometimes we're feeling like we're needing a little bit of self-care, or even that we're really needing more care than that. So, Alyssa, if you would, what do you think your number is for today?
I think I'm in a good space. I feel like I'm maybe a 2.
Awesome. Thank you. Bailey, what about you?
Yeah, I would say I'm probably in like around the 2-ish. It's not anxiety, but it's that anticipatory excitement. So a little bit higher, but not like a negative reason, just excited.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. I think I'm maybe a 1.5, 1.75. I like decimals. I don't like being tied to a hard number. But some of it is, it's a Friday, and it's been a little bit of a week, but also excited about all the things that we're doing. So
yeah, I would agree. I like the 0.5s too. We didn't tell you that you can do a 0.5, but I'm going to go for. I'm in between, so I'm just going to go all the way up to a 2. So today has a lot in it. Like Shelby said, it's a long week. We're doing some new things, of course, here today too. So I think I'm at a 2. So Alyssa, our next question is kind of a big one. But we kind of did a little bit of an introduction to you. But now we would just love to know, who are you? Who are you as a human?
Yeah, thanks so much for asking. I am married. I have 4 dogs in my house right now, which is crazy that my life revolves around all of the animals that are living, breathing, and barking in my house. So a lot of my time and energy is spent in that space. I live in St. Louis, Missouri. I have a lot of really great friends here.
Awesome. Thank you for that introduction. Well, I know that I am especially interested not only to talk about, of course, the dogs that you just mentioned, and so is the team, let's be clear. I mean, when animals, but I really wanted to know a little bit more. Can you introduce us to your position that you currently have? Forensic mental health treatment. Can you tell us more about that? What does your day-to-day look like when you're at work?
Yeah, so we have a program that we developed about 3 years ago. We received a grant for Madison County Jail in Edwardsville, Illinois, to provide mental health services inside of the jail, which was kind of a new thing for the jail. It was definitely a learning curve for all of us to have a mental health therapist there 40 hours a week. And so I supervise and oversee that therapist and covered a maternity leave. So I was being the therapist for a while. And then we were able to expand to another jail. We've been able to get into Jackson County Jail out of Carbondale, and we're looking at expanding to some other county jails. So we've been able to kind of develop and grow this mental health program in the county jail space, which ultimately is really different from, there's mental health services in Department of Corrections, but it looks really different when people are coming into the county spaces and maybe they're very temporarily, maybe not there very often, or for very long. And so we've been able to provide some case management, some resources, some therapy in those spaces, and hopefully preventing people from coming back.
Life-changing work.
Yeah.
Well, and some would even argue that the work you're doing is already giving back to the community, and truly is. So I'm really curious to see where this conversation goes, and in your mind, what the difference is between what you're doing for your job and career and giving back in that way, and what you are doing outside of your work hours for volunteering and volunteerism, and what the differences are. I think that's going to be cool to hear about.
Awesome. So I think sometimes when we are living the lives we're living, there's a lot that is packed into them. So that's why this idea of volunteerism that we're going to talk about today, I hope is going to be something that we can unpack, kind of take the pieces to it and define it a little bit more. But I think my first question to you is, I'm just really curious about how your volunteerism fits into your life. Maybe you can tell us kind of what you're doing, but also, are there some benefits that you feel like you're getting from your volunteering?
Yeah. So for me personally, my favorite place to volunteer is with Speak Rescue and Sanctuary. They're a St. Louis-based dog rescue that's entirely foster-based. So we have a foster dog at home right now that's an Australian Shepherd, and they specialize in special needs dogs. So primarily they take in double merles, which are dogs that are oftentimes blind or deaf or both. So we have 2 deaf Aussies at home that we adopted. We continue to foster more. We have a dog that's not deaf right now, in which we keep forgetting that she's not deaf and forget that we can talk to her. But that's probably my favorite place to volunteer for right now. And that we spend most of our time kind of volunteering and connecting and networking with them.
I was so excited about this conversation because we and our team is probably tired of hearing me talk about it. We very recently became fosters for a cat family. So we got a mama and her 5 kittens back in February. And it has been such an interesting process. You think like we would go and volunteer at an animal shelter here called Care Rescue. And then had decided to be fosters, which, to be honest, my 11-year-old is the reason we became fosters. She's a huge advocate for fostering. She absolutely loves Hannah Shaw and all the fostering work that she does. And so this last weekend, we had this cool experience because so far our fostering journey has been very much like the cats are in our house and we're taking care of them and making sure the babies are growing. And we had this moment where 3 of the kittens were ready to go and ready to be adopted. And so we took them to care to be adopted last weekend. And both of my girls were really nervous about saying goodbye, about, they had helped raise these kittens since they were 3 weeks old, about separating. And we were doing all the things. I'm a therapist. I'm talking to them about grief and separation and trying to help them process all of these things. And honestly, the moment that did it for them was when we walked in. Apparently, there's a wait list for kittens right now. So we had people there waiting, ready to adopt our babies. And we get in, and the girls are pulling them out of their crates and holding them and handing them over to people who are looking to adopt. And just having that moment where they got to see their people, like who is taking these babies home. And at the end of that exchange, one family decided to take 2 of the kittens at the same time. And the mom just came up and gave my littlest a hug and said, "Thank you so much for raising them and getting them ready to go home with us." And it reminded me that we were in this really tough moment because 5 kittens and a mama cat is a lot sometimes to take care of. And I was, on Instagram and saw this post from kitten lady Hannah Shaw that just said, sometimes it hits me when I have this itty bitty baby that fits in the palm of my hand that I'm holding somebody's best friend, that this is going to be the pet that is going to be with them in their moments of grief and hopefully have 2 decades of love and share and connection is really going to be their safe place in their home. And it, for me, is that piece of like, yes, it is the satisfaction, the reward of caring for these creatures, and we love animals in our house. But I guess the part that I was not expecting was, and I think you were speaking a little bit to this with like the community and the connection, was the human element of being able to gift over this precious creature to somebody, knowing that that is going to support them potentially through the next 2 decades of their lives, which was something that I was like, it was a pleasant little glimmer surprise that I was not expecting, and was really, really neat. So I was just curious if you have any like little moments where you were like, oh, I did not expect that piece, but I am so grateful that happened.
Yeah, it's such a heartwarming story. And for us, like I totally relate. I would be lying if I said that I didn't just like sob like a baby when the dogs get adopted. But it's also like I know that I am providing healing for all of them, right? I'm giving the dog a safe place to land, oftentimes from very difficult situations. One of our first fosters was a 5-year-old deaf Australian Shepherd that came from a pretty terrible situation. So she didn't know how to be in a house. She didn't know how to be around people. We had to teach her the social skills. And when she got adopted, I was so heartbroken, but their dog had recently passed, and they were in a space of like needing that healing. And she was fulfilling something for them at the same time as they were fulfilling something for her. And we were just kind of her temporary place to land. And I also have to remind myself that if I adopt all of them, then I can't keep helping, because like we'll just never get anywhere. And, we've failed twice. We have 2 deaf Aussies that we kept. So we're not the best at fostering sometimes, but if I keep adopting them out, I'm helping the dog, I'm helping the people, and also I get to keep doing it.
Yeah, I think that is the cool thing about these acts of compassion or volunteering that the behavioral science links to in like when we engage in an act of compassion, whether it's through volunteerism or a small everyday act, we are getting some neurochemicals like serotonin and oxytocin and dopamine. And serotonin is that mood regulator, dopamine being that place that gives us pleasure and motivation, and oxytocin being that connecting hormone, that bonding hormone, that we get that. Whomever we are interacting with or doing the kind act for also gets those neurochemicals. And then the sort of magical trifecta piece is anybody who is witnessing those interactions and those pieces also get those neurochemicals. And so it is really a way, like as silly as it sounds, to make big impact with very small pieces. Like how do I take care of my brain, and you're also helping other people care for their brains, and then bystanders are also getting these little pieces that are good for us too.
And those are often referred to as like the feel-good hormones, yes. Right, Bailey? Those are the things that we want, that sometimes we seek in not the healthiest ways, right? So very interested in how volunteerism and acts of compassion can help us seek that dopamine release that we're often seeking in such a healthy way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I, as someone who has worked a lot in the addiction space and with our substance use treatment, like dopamine is like, it is the number one thing that we're seeking, either in a positive way or in a negative way. And I really appreciate the way that you kind of get that like helper's high, right? You get this like pleasure center release that comes from not just the interaction, like you said, of like the volunteering itself, but also the people that witness it also get that sort of restoring our faith in humanity, that like good things can happen and that we get to witness other people doing good things. And that makes me want to do good things. And, even the simple stuff, all of those things kind of continue to light up that piece of your brain, and also calming that amygdala and like threat response. It also has that like sense of calm and kind of grounding and self-regulation as well.
Yeah, there's some really cool research on the neuroscience behind acts of kindness and how it is it's actually like a biological driving force, right? It is a survival strategy because human beings need other humans. We talk a lot about we've never been the fastest, strongest predator out there. Like our superpower has always been other people. And so those pro-social pieces, those pieces where we are connecting and relating to other humans has really been essential in human survival for as long as we've been around. So there are scientific reasons why that happens, why like when we see a kind act, we then want to also do a kind act, or we're also benefiting from that, is because we really want those social groups to stay safe and connected and want to feel safe and connected within those.
And I think that's something we're often missing so much in our society now. We're arguably more connected than ever with social media and email, and I could call across the world right now if I wanted to. But we are also in the midst of this loneliness epidemic, and it is so easy to see the endless news cycles that are terrible because that's how they get views and that's what they want, and just feel like, oh my gosh, the world is terrible. Like nothing good is happening. Like I can't handle this anymore. But then when we're so intentional with connecting with other humans through acts of compassion or volunteering, it just gives me goosebumps. I just love it.
Yeah.
So Alyssa, I think I'm interested in, we talked about, gosh, I think the idea of, you were talking about how you were finding things that really fit for you. So I'm wondering too, sometimes there's barriers, right? When people are, Shelby mentioned the loneliness pandemic. That's something that has been around for probably longer than we've known, but it was recently described in detail in 2023. So I wonder, volunteering, we talked about the stories that both Bailey and you talked about other people in them as well, right? The fact that one little thing that you're doing with the animals that you're doing compounds, right? Those animals were given away to other homes that, like you said, someone had lost a pet, so that filled a spot. So with volunteering, I wonder, Alyssa, could you talk to some of the barriers that might be there? And do you have any ideas about small ways that you might be able to offer for someone to just maybe even get started if they even ever thought about doing something like in the volunteering field?
Yeah. So I feel like one of the biggest things is like time constraints, right? Like we already feel burned out, especially if you're in a helping profession. Like it's so easy to feel like I don't have the time or the energy to even think about those things. And then we miss those small opportunities that's also volunteering, right? That being intentional about things. So like if you're helping someone find their car in a parking lot, maybe you gave 5 minutes of your day to that, or helping someone carry something or holding a door, finding the small ways, but also other ways of being intentional. So like, it's spring cleaning, we're cleaning out our closets, we're getting rid of things. And I know for me, every time that I like clean out my closet or even housewares, like I'm intentional about where I take those things to. For me specifically, I take them to the St. Patrick's Center downtown St. Louis because they offer kind of a free store to those that are unhoused to go through and get housing things when they're getting into a new home, or to go and pick out clothing. And that's me. Like, is it the most inconvenient place to drop off? No. It would be easier to throw it in a dumpster, but I'm being intentional and being organized about like where this is going. And that's also volunteering, right? Like that's okay. I'm going to make the trip and drop this stuff off. So sometimes it's not about the big time commitment thing, the thing that takes up so much energy. There's also volunteering that's like a one-off, right? That there's like one Saturday afternoon you do something, and maybe you don't do it all the time, but every once in a while. And those are important things too. And I think sometimes when we think about volunteering, we think about, oh, I have to commit to this bigger, greater thing, or it's not going to be meaningful. But the things that are meaningful are all of the small pieces too.
I love that. I think that's where like the magic lies, is in those small everyday moments, right? I think oftentimes in so many ways we think that I have to commit 15 hours a week for it to make a difference, but it really does lie in those everyday connections, those small, tiny little glimmer moments.
Paying attention, right? Like noticing the person who is struggling to find their car. And to be honest, in our day and world right now, we're not really great about paying attention already. But if we can pour some intentionality and pay attention and notices things around us. Is there a colleague who is struggling with a skill or something that I'm really good at and that I could do a quick walkthrough with them or help that person find their car or be more intentional about where I'm donating my clothes? And I think it's just the paying attention and then putting some intentionality around like how you feel after that. What does it feel like to know it's like, well, I'm going to drive the extra 5 minutes down to the St. Patrick's Center so I can donate this to a place where that feels really true to who I am and what my values are.
I love that. Well, as we come to a close today, I've loved this conversation. We didn't talk about just the big things. Alyssa was great to just show us those things that are all around us already. Sometimes it's not the best idea to just jump in with something very brand new, but instead take the things that are already surrounding us. So I wonder, Alyssa, do you have anything else that's on your mind that you'd like to share with us today before we close out?
I'm just so grateful to get to have this conversation and share some of the things that I'm passionate about and just encourage people to find the things that they find value in, to find the things that that make them feel good, because those are the things that make other people feel good. And, I think we're desperately looking for goodness right now, and being able to see and hear that from other people is I think what restores kind of our sense of purpose and sense of belonging and sense of community in all of the small ways that we can show up.
I love that. Find the good, be the good.
I love that. Thank you so much, Alyssa, for your time and for your heart and for your expertise. We just wish you to be well. Thanks again, Alyssa.
Thank you.
As we wrap up our time today, remember this. Volunteering isn't just about giving your time. It's about gaining connection and purpose and moments that truly support your mental health. When we show up for others, we often end up showing up for ourselves in meaningful ways. If today's conversation inspired you, take that first small step, because your well-being is worth it. I would like to thank you for our time together and for Alyssa and her valuable insight. And stay connected with us by finding Be Well Besties on all platforms where community, care, and real conversations continue. Until next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and be well, besties.
LCSW.